Welcome to the Waterboy and Equipment Manager podcast. I'm your host, Case Charania.
And I'm Asad Lalani.
And joining us today, we have a very special guest. Want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Alykhan. Nice to meet you. Oh, wait, I've been on here a few times.
You've been on here a couple of times. We all know Alykhan as Rockets Insider on Twitter and at Alykhan Bijani NBA on Instagram. But, it's a special occasion. Safe, our benevolent dictator, is not here today, so we get to have a little bit of fun.
That's what only reason why I came on today, by the way, because Safe is not here. Only reason why.
Yeah, he's gonna love hearing that the second I publish this podcast. But no, today we're gonna go ahead and do the top 10 power rankings with about 4 weeks left in the season, maybe. And then we'll talk about the NBA as a whole and why the hell does Joel Embiid shoot so many free throws?
He's just a foul magnet. I mean, you can't really stop him.
It's like, why does James Harden shoot so many free throws? Because he puts his arms out and people reach in the cookie jar.
Yeah, all right. We'll talk about that game later on. If you guys haven't noticed already, we're recording this right after the Nets Sixers game. And it was a doozy for all of us. I don't think anyone watched that game. But let's go ahead and start with the power rankings. We're going to do our top 10. We're going to name the teams. I have Safes. You guys have yours. And let's just start at the bottom because we all want to know who you have at number 10, Asad.
I struggle with this one because there's a few teams that could have had the spot, and I'm sure we'll differ, so we'll probably get to that. I have the Golden State Warriors at 10. I don't feel great about it, but they are the number 3 seed in the Western Conference, so this is as low as I think they go. Obviously, without Draymond Green right now, they don't look great. The same ball movement, the same energy isn't there. Obviously, with Draymond, you get his terrific basketball IQ, the defensive player of the year, who probably would have been had he been healthy and played for more games this season. But without that defensive presence and to anchor, the Warriors on the defensive end, they've just looked really, really bad on both ends. But it's not all Draymond's fault. Steph Curry has gone, he was in a slump for earlier this season. I think it's still a little bit inconsistent. He hasn't really gotten
in a slump for a good 2 months, dude. I
feel like he broke out. He kind of broke out of it after the All-Star break and then went back into it.
But it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I'm not going to lie to you. The Warriors did not make my top 10. I have them right outside. Safe has them a little bit higher up. Alykhan, do you have them on your top 10?
I do, actually.
Are they higher up than this?
They're my number 9 team, actually.
All right, so let's real quick. Safe has the Jazz at number 9. I think it's a very safe pick. Not safe as in the person, but just like overall, like they're a good team. But are they top 10 in the NBA right now? Of course they are. They're 40-23. I think they're 1 game behind the Warriors right now in 4th place.
They're 41-24, so they're 2.5 back of Golden State.
All right. Well, Sports Illustrated, fuck you and your records. But yeah, so like they're a good team. They're always a good regular season team. Let's not forget they were the 1 seed last year.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, they did lose to the team I have at number 10, which is the Denver Nuggets.
Wow.
They're only this low because it's still just Jokic, even though he's on an MVP level run again. But assuming they do get Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. back, like we've been hearing, I think they'll rise by the end of the season when we have that playoff push episode in a couple weeks. But right now, they're stuck at 10 simply because it is really just Jokic. And the guy's fantastic. I think he had, 43 the other night, 32, 15, and 7 yesterday.
Yeah, he's been putting up monster numbers. I mean, he's been single-handedly carrying this team, right, this entire season, which is why it's so impressive that they are where they are in the standings. Because, like, I mean, I don't know with that. I mean, their supporting cast is not great, right? Like, Aaron Gordon has done decently well as as a second fiddle to Jokic, but there's been guys in and out of the lineup. You're starting my favorite Uncle Jeffy, who's 36,000 years old, and Jeff Green, but that's not necessarily a starting lineup that will go far in the playoffs.
Can you tell me who their starting lineup was yesterday?
Yesterday, probably Will. I'm assuming Will Barton. Their normal starting five is Will Barton, Aaron Gordon, Jeff Green. They're not starting Bones Highland anymore. Who's Monty Morris.
Monty Morris.
Monty Morris, yeah. Monty's actually been really good for them. He's hit a lot of clutch shots in the last couple of weeks.
You know, he talked about it with Jokic. Both of them talked about it. They don't talk while they're playing together. They communicate with their eyes.
Yeah, it's crazy. But Will Barton didn't play yesterday. You had Monty Morris, Austin Rivers, Devon Reed, Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic start.
Interesting.
Devon Reed's like a 2K creation character. Yes.
He is. I don't know what's going on there.
Making them passes for them dimes, you know what I mean? So
it's all right. The Denver Nuggets belong in this top 10 simply because if they're here, they're not just a joke. And they're only going to get better as the season goes on. But who'd you have at number 10, Alykhan?
I had the Minnesota Timberwolves. And let me tell you why. They are 8-2 in their last 10. Karl Anthony Towns is shooting a ridiculous percentage in the paint. They may be without Anthony Edwards, but they've had a soft schedule this week. They're gaining confidence in themselves. And I'm looking forward to their matchup against the Miami Heat coming up. Miami Heat, for me, I have them ranked very, very high. And depending on how well they do, especially defensively, I'm excited to be able to see, how they kind of go with the defense, or how their defense, especially with the pressure they put on the ball. They love to be able to trap. They love to be able to kind of hedge and do some icing, basically kind of containing the ball handler. How is their weak side coverage going to do against a team like Miami that likes to exploit you by moving around and doing things? So that will be a big test for them. But I've just been so just very happy with their development. Just Karl Anthony Towns, I think he's taken that next step. He is a superstar in this league.
I think the team as a whole has been fun to watch because they just kind of flipped a switch right around the All-Star break. Oh. And they have been nearly unbeatable, which is fun to see. Malik Beasley is playing out of his mind right now.
He
shot 11 he shot 11 from 17 yesterday.
Yep. He's on my fantasy
and
team. So.
He shot 11 for 17 from 3. My man did not attempt a shot from the line or inside the arc.
It's like Alsa plays pickup games. Except Alsa doesn't make 11. He probably makes 0. So he goes 0.
Hey, I'm a solid 1 for 5 guy.
Yeah, Asad's the kid that misses every shot, but the game winner, nothing but net.
Yeah.
You know what?
That's true. I've had a game.
Just described me, Case. I've done that actually twice.
Alykhan is not a shooter, bro. Alykhan just stands in the post and like swings his arms around, and then we'll like throw a couple bounce passes. That's
what? We got to take this one-on-one. I think he's talking too much mess right now.
All right, look, if we're gonna do one-on-one, give me like a month and a half so I can finish my rehab, and then we can go. Because I used to be a beast.
It's all about the footwork, you know what I mean? You got the footwork. We're not.
You just gotta have touch, bro. You gotta have touch. That's all it is. All right, but number 9, you had the Warriors. You want to add to anything we said at number 10?
So yeah, well, the only thing for the Warriors I'll say is that while obviously a big part
of you introduced them.
Yeah. So
I was talking to Alykhan.
Oh, my bad, bro.
Well, you have him at 9. Who else would I be talking to?
No. You said the way you said it. My bad. Sorry. Okay.
Y'all are both right next to each other. It's really hard to differentiate.
Fair enough.
Sorry. All right. Yeah. So when I look at the Warriors, they're a very complicated case. In one hand, you have Draymond Green, who's about to return from injury on Monday against the Wizards. On the other hand, you've had a lot of these young guys develop, but even when Draymond comes back, what's to say their interior defense improves?
Perimeter. The return of Wiseman.
Well, yes, but can you fully trust Wiseman to carry you with your perimeter defense? You have Looney, who's in a serviceable job, but when you're playing these bigger teams in the Western Conference, I'm not as much worried about them scoring as much as I'm worried about how are you going to shut down a guy like Nikola Jokic. And then now when you have the Dallas Mavericks, who have given them a lot of trouble, going pretty much 5 out with Dinwiddie, Brunson, and Doncic, and you're going to put one of Kleber or Bullock or one of their Bertans or a shooter there, they're playing essentially 5 smalls out there. Are you going to be able to stop their penetration? I'm not convinced yet that the Golden State Warriors.
So for that specific lineup, I think they can guard the 5 wide with Draymond without a center on the court.
Okay.
Just that specific situation you brought up, because I think Draymond's intelligence alone makes him 2 defenders. And you're essentially playing 6-on-5 at that point. And as we've seen, the Warriors' perimeter defense is good. Where they struggle is when people get inside the 3-point line, inside the key.
Yes.
And I think just having Draymond directing traffic solves a lot of it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like I said, just based off of where they've been right now, obviously when Draymond comes back, he's, arguably one of the most important players, but that's Steph. And when he comes back and he's able to kind of provide them that toughness, that intangibles, that defense they're missing, then I will probably have them much higher in my power ranking. But for now, they're still only number 9 for me.
So my quick question is Klay Thompson a problem? Because I was scrolling through NBA Twitter today.
This was a point
and
that
someone tweeted out, Klay Thompson is really post-injury. Klay Thompson is really just Duncan Robinson with an ego.
That's
and I laughed for a solid 3 or 4 minutes.
That's a little disrespectful. I mean, he's been in a slump. He hasn't really found a true form coming back from his injury. The other thing too is Jordan Poole was playing really, really well as a starter while Klay was out. And then Klay coming back completely threw off their rotation and threw off Jordan Poole's rhythm. And Jordan Poole has not really found it. And the only time that he seems to go off is when Klay is just completely not playing. And, he'll have his 35 points, 7 of 12 from 3 shooting nights. But when Klay's playing and Poole's coming off the bench, there's the synergy between the two of them and the entire team as a whole isn't really there. So I wonder if they can fix that before playoffs.
I think Draymond coming back is going to help him a lot. And the reason why I say that is whenever you look back at over the years, a lot of Klay's threes came off of passes from Draymond and Steph. And how does that action work? It comes out of split cuts where you have Draymond posting up and Steph and Klay literally kind of running into each other and going in different directions. That's what split cuts is. And that's how they've been so unstoppable from the 3-point line. I think once that comes back, you have Draymond there who's able to pass and find Klay in his spots, be able to kind of use some of his, maybe some moving screens, if we want to call them, and get him open. I think that type of synergy is going to lead him to getting open. And oh, by the way, he's still barely getting back after 2.5 years. I think for me, I'm very patient with Klay. I don't think they're going to stop trying to get him going. And I just don't think he's there yet. He played 30 minutes, a couple of weeks ago, he started to play a little bit more, but until he's playing consistently where he used to be, I don't think he's going to get there. But then that also begs the question for you too. Do you think if, let's say this slump goes on, do you think once playoff time comes, you just start him? Or like you said, they played well with Jordan Poole starting. Do you have Jordan Poole start alongside Steph?
I think Jordan Poole coming off the bench is a nice spark.
That's the idea that they've wanted, but it hasn't really worked.
So who's a better ball handler for that second unit?
Jordan Poole, 100%.
100%, right? Now that being said, if Poole, it's sometimes some players just play better as starters, right? If that's the case, do you go with a better starting unit and having Klay potentially come off the bench and do well there, or do you have Klay there as the starter and Poole off the bench?
I mean, that's what we're going to see in these next 4 weeks.
So that's what they have the next month to figure out. Because there's already talks of the rotation changing. I think Kerr asked Steph, do you want your old minutes back? He's like, sure, why not? I don't know if that means more minutes or less minutes, whatever it is.
Well, they're trying something new where they basically play Steph the first 9 minutes. He leaves 3 minutes left in the first, comes back with 9 minutes left in the second. So it's like a 9-9-9 kind of thing. And I think that's going to be interesting. Where that's key is, can they win the minutes Steph doesn't play? That's always been the existential crisis for the Warriors. Can you win those minutes?
I don't think they can.
Can Poole help them win those minutes?
With Draymond, it's possible, right?
With an accepted role off the bench, Poole can help. Because when you start both of them together, it's kind of the same thing, right? You have Poole and Steph playing together, and you're counting on Clay to make up the points off the bench. But I think we've dug in a little too deep on the Warriors analysis. So let me give you my number 9, which is the Chicago Bulls.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It feels disrespectfully low to have them here, but they are 0-14 against top 3 teams from both divisions. They cannot beat one of the top 3 seeds. So I cannot give them anything higher than this. There will be at least, 6 teams higher than them now. And I have 2 more that I think are better currently than they will be. The team is crazy. They're going to get Caruso back. Lonzo should be back by the playoffs. I don't think he'll play the rest of the season, but he should be back for the playoffs. But they don't get any higher than this, in my opinion.
I think you're generous because the Bulls currently are not on my top 10. They're right outside. They were on my number 11. So it's tough for me to put them. The Bulls, obviously, you mentioned that 0-14 record, right? Where they have not performed well at all against really good teams. They're missing some really, really important players in Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, and Patrick Williams. So I'm looking at some updates on all 3 of them. So it seems like Caruso and Williams and Lonzo are all doing individual non-contact work.
Caruso was cleared today.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear him back. But it seems like Lonzo is definitely the furthest of the 3 in terms of his recovery. Yeah. So when they get all those guys back, then I think Chicago will be whole. I think Vooch has been in and out of the lineup as well. And DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine have done really well, and DeMar has been phenomenal the entire season. LaVine has been out, due to injuries and some other things. But because if you're not able to beat one of the top teams in both conferences, that worries me, right? Like if you can't do that in the regular season, how the hell are you going to do that in playoffs?
But it's not one of the top teams in both conferences. It's the top 3 teams in both conferences.
Yeah, exactly. So that just further, goes to my point where I just think that right now there are 9 other teams. For my list, there are 9 other teams better than Chicago.
So before we go to Alykhan, Safe also has the Bulls at number 9. And I think it's to the same sentiment I had, where they're good. We think they're contenders, but I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah, and not the current version that we're seeing, especially in the last weeks.
All right, Alykhan, who do you have at 9?
So my 9 was 10 was Wolves, 9 was Warriors.
Oh, that's my bad. Who do you have at 8?
Yeah. So no, for me at 8, I have the Dallas Mavericks, and I actually wanted to have them higher because their defense has been incredible. But I have them on 8 because yes, they're playing well. But I want to still be more sold on if they can win playoff games playing as small as they are. I think they can. Dwight Powell has been very good, kind of filling in that 5-man role on offense, especially as a starter. Kleber's been good for them in terms of switching and everything. But Dinwiddie, if he can play this way, play efficient and be that tertiary ball handler besides Brunson and Doncic, they can beat anybody in this league because once they get going and they get dribble penetration, that's open shots for Bullock. That's open shots for Kleber. That's open shots for whichever big or wing they have as a spacer on the floor. So for me, they're very impressive. And I didn't even get to mention Davis Bertans as well.
Okay, so Mavs at 8. I'm glad Shaban's not here. But I also have the Mavs at 8 simply because I don't see them continuing this role. I think people will figure it out. And once people figure it out, it's going to be, I guess the fun game is going to be what? They play the Jazz soon?
Yeah.
Monday, I think, right? So that'll be a fun game with Gobert and seeing if they can play him off the court.
Yeah, it'll be definitely interesting to see. I have my number 9 are the Utah Jazz, and I've got Denver at my number 8.
So you and Safe have the Nuggets at 8.
Yeah. So, and I guess since we're talking Mavs, I have them right above. I have the Mavs at 7. So I think all 3 of these teams are all really, really close to each other. Obviously, we talked about the Nuggets. If they get, Jamal and Michael Porter Jr. back, they can make a jump higher. The Mavs, I think you make a really good point is, they have never really been able to guard bigs really well because they've always had Dwight Powell at center, right? They've never had the capability to play really good interior defense until this year where it seems like Porzingis played one game every 3 weeks and then had some other injury and was out. So is that really
A quick
true?
interjection here. The Mavs did not make Safe's top 10. I'm just realizing this.
Wow. Those
Casual.
I would love, I'm interested to hear his reasoning about that. I mean, considering that they're the number 5 seed. They've been 7-3 in their last 10.
Yeah, so look, I'm just gonna tell you this right now. Safe has the Warriors on here, and I haven't told you where he has them yet.
Okay. I mean, clearly, I think we've gone through 10, 9, and 8, right? So
so they're not there, and they're not at 7. So let's just keep going.
Oh, Jesus
I
Christ!
just want to mention one last point about the Mavericks. They're 9-2 in their last 11 games, in games that were decided by 5 points or less. And the way their defense is playing, when you have a good defense in the playoffs, you're always going to play close games because your defense is going to keep you in it if you're shooting well, if you're not shooting well. And they're going to be a lot of close games because of their defense in the playoffs. And when that happens, having 3 ball handlers is a luxury. And not just 3 ball handlers, but 3 ball handlers who you can trust to make a play. And to me, that's why they're only at that point right now for me at number 8, but they have the potential by the playoffs come if they get hot to move all the way up as well.
100%. And I think you have someone else at 8, right, Asa, before we hop to 7?
Yeah, I had Denver at 8. I put the Mavs higher just because I think the Mavs with the number 1 defense in the league, right? Or number 2 defense now, I think it's behind the Celtics, I guess. Yeah. But they, with that defense has been really, really good. So for that reason, I had them slightly above the Nuggets. Last point I want to bring about Dallas is Davis Bertans. His slump continues. He is shooting 30% from 3 in his 9 games in Dallas. And it wasn't any good in Washington. It still hasn't been very good in Dallas. So if the Mavs want to go far, they're going to need him and Reggie Bullock. And
I said it when he signed. Worst contract in the NBA.
Is there any worse contract in the NBA than Davis Bertans right now?
Russell
Westbrook.
I thought he was going to say Tobias Harris. I'm pretty surprised he didn't say Tobias.
Tobias is up there. Tobias is top 5 worst contract.
Tobias is the least hated max player in the NBA somehow, some way.
The worst contract in the NBA, bar none, is Kevin Huerter.
Okay, dude, he's on a $16 million contract.
I did that piss him off. I don't actually mean I love Kevin Huerter. He's such a good player.
All right, let's move on to
whenever
7.
you piss off us, that's a great feeling. So
let's move on to 7. Me and Safe have the Sixers at 7. And I have debated dropping them entirely after tonight.
It was 1 game, dude.
It was 29 points.
Okay, yeah, it was 1 game. All right.
Look, and your crowd was chanting against a guy sitting in street clothes.
They just got outplayed. I mean, Kevin Durant and Kyrie just, ran them out the gym, and James Harden played like shit straight up. So there's not a lot you can do. It's not like if you can't beat those 2 guys playing like shit.
The Sixers are arguably one of the best teams in the NBA with Joel MVP playing for him. And maybe James Harden figures out how to not think everything's a playoff game soon. But yeah, they're good. They've been good all year. It's been a rough stretch the last couple of days. Or a couple of hours, I guess. But, I'm not going to say much.
I knew these guys were going to put the Sixers low because they're both fucking James Harden haters. I knew this was going to happen.
So let me ask you this. What would it take for you to put the Sixers in a championship contender category? Because I don't think you guys are sold just yet on that.
I'm not, simply due to the fact that I need to see more.
What does that look like? What does that mean?
More cohesion between James and Joel. It's been 2 weeks, a week since James started playing, right?
I think about 2 weeks. About 2 weeks now.
About 2 weeks. I need to see a little more cohesion, right? And I'm not out on the Sixers. I think they're a good team and they are contenders. I just don't know if I trust them yet. That's all it is.
So because it looks like you guys' power ranking is based off of what you've seen on the court versus what potentially can be, which I get it. Like, it's more so about what you trust.
But so for my thing right now, what I can see is what I've seen the past 2 weeks.
Okay.
They were on a 5-game winning streak. This was their first loss with James and Embiid playing together.
I think that loss was more so to do with that they were too amped. And Austin and I were watching this game together. the Sixers are a good fundamental defense team. They have good fundamentals. Today, they probably played some of the worst fundamentals they have in a very long time. There was times where their closeouts were so long on James Johnson that it opened up a driving lane first, and then he passed out to somebody else because when somebody rotated over, 3-point line was open. So there was just really bad fundamentals going on. I think just the fact they were amped to play Ben. James was amped to play Brooklyn. I just think it was an emotional game.
I think the crowd had a lot to do with it.
Yes, and clearly Kevin Durant is a big game player and thrives in these situations. And Kyrie knows how to play in these situations. And to me, I know I don't think the Nets are any of our top tens, but I will say the Nets, if they play either Miami or whoever the top 3 or 4 seeds are in the Eastern Conference right now, I definitely think the Nets not only can win that series, but can win the series in 5 or 6 games, just with the way they're going to start playing.
Agreed. All right. At 7, Asad, you had Dallas.
Yep.
Alykhan, who do you have at 7?
7. So just a caveat, I had 3 teams tied for like 5th. So 5, 6, 7. But the tiebreaker, I will say for this one goes to Milwaukee. Milwaukee is my 7.
At 7.
At 7.
Okay.
All right. Why Milwaukee's higher up on my list? I assume it's higher up on both of yours as well.
Why is Milwaukee high? I'm just curious. Besides the fact that Giannis can take over in a clutch situation.
So look, if
against Phoenix,
we talk about your 3-game tie or 3-team tie, Milwaukee wins that tie for me. I have them at 5.
Okay. Well, so let me at least give you the context of who I had them with, and then we can talk about, I guess, Milwaukee. So I had Milwaukee, I had the Sixers, and I had the Nuggets. And so Nuggets are 5, Sixers are 6, and Milwaukee is 7.
Okay.
Now, back to you, though, because both of you clearly have Milwaukee higher than me. Why is Milwaukee higher for you? Just overall, not compared to the teams I said, but why is just Milwaukee overall higher in your rankings? What stands out to you about them?
I think they're in kickback mode right now. The only one really playing with a purpose is Giannis, is because he sees that MVP or Defensive Player of the Year slot wide open, and I think he wants to go for it. And Giannis is the kind of guy that's not going to lay back anyway. But you have Drew Holiday, who's been playing fantastic this year. Chris Middleton, who's also been amazing like he has been the past 3 or 4 years. And I think with their playoff experience and newfound confidence that they can beat anybody in the fucking world, that they just hold a higher degree, in my opinion.
You know, when I think about Milwaukee, I think about Drew Holiday. And I've mentioned this to us outside the podcast that to me, Drew Holiday is not only their second most important player, he's been their second best player since he came to the Bucks last year. And yes, Chris Middleton is fantastic and goes off, and he had an amazing game against Phoenix a few games ago. And yes, Giannis is Giannis, but Drew Holiday to me is the engine. Without him this season, they're 1-7. With him, they're much better, and they've won their last 3 games. They've won 3 games recently that are all fourth quarter comebacks, and they have one of the most efficient fourth quarter offense in this league. So I think it bodes well to your point, Case, that they are definitely, taking it easy right now. But that being said, I've seen a lot of teams lately in these last few years in championship contention where they may not play good defense. Now their defense picks up, but it doesn't pick up all the way up to what we feel like it should be. And yes, I agree they can turn the switch, but if they turn the switch so late, will it get back to that championship level Bucks defense they had last year?
So my thing is the switch isn't like a per game thing. It's last week of the season. We flip the switch, get hot, and carry it through.
But see, a lot of teams say that. What makes you think Milwaukee would be able to get that through compared to?
Because their best player doesn't have an off switch. I think Giannis is enough to carry them through right now. And then Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, hell, fucking Bobby Portis. They're just biding their time. And they're going to ramp it up. They're going to play more team basketball towards the end of the year. And in the playoffs, they're just going to go boom. But, You have him at 7. I have him at 5. Asad has them up towards 5, I assume.
I have Milwaukee at 4 on my list.
So we'll get back to them when Asad brings them up. At number 6, I have the Utah Jazz.
Wow, I'm shocked that you have them that high, especially considering your love for Rudy Gobert.
I don't have them at all in my top 10.
And that's fine. I like the team. And I think they're playing great basketball. Sadly to say, Rudy Gobert has been excellent this year. And it's only a power ranking because, as you said, what they can continue in the future in my eyes. And they've been good enough to warrant that ranking, in my opinion.
If the Jazz win the chip this season, will you get a Rudy Gobert Jazz jersey?
Yeah. All right. You heard
this
it.
Is
you
like
heard it here.
It's like a Charles Barkley guarantee. We need to make a guarantee board for Case that he will get a Rudy Gobert, not just final. It has to have the finals patch on it. Rudy Gobert finals patch jersey if the Jazz win the championship this season.
Look, I'll tweet it out from the WebM account as we speak. But yeah, I don't see it happening, so I'll say it.
Well, Case, you bring up, clearly you have them higher than both of us do because they're not even in my top 10. My concern for them is their bench. I do not trust their bench to deliver in playoff situations. Even if they shorten, the rotation, you still need effective bench players, and they're just not consistent enough for me to get excited about, what's going on. Yeah, okay, you have Rudy Gay. Okay, you have Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson hasn't played as well as he did last year. Rudy Gay has not been as consistent or efficient as he could be. Trent Force has been good for them, but can he play that well in a playoff situation? Daniel House has been such an important part of their team. And he was
not the Rockets guys saying Daniel House is good.
No, I'm not saying he's good.
I'm laughing.
I'm not saying he's good. I'm just saying he's playing crunch time minutes for them,
which is bad.
Which is not a good thing for.
That's why I'm laughing, because Daniel House should not be playing.
So when I look at this Jazz team, I just can't trust them. I can't trust them right now. Their team is loaded with Gobert and Mitchell, and that's maybe all you need. But that's
understandable.
But I can't trust their bench in the playoffs.
I totally get where you're coming from.
I'll take another step. I can't trust half of their starters. Like Mike Conley is not the same player that he was 5 years ago.
All right. We get the Mike. We know you like the Grizzlies. All right. Stop slandering Mr. Grizzly himself.
Okay. All right. Fine. But Rudy Gobert has a defensive player of the year, has been played off the court come the playoffs, right?
2-time defensive player of the year.
Yeah.
No, hold on. 3-time defensive player of the year. What are you talking about, man?
Wait, he's a 3-time?
Yeah,
he's won it 3 times.
Oh fuck!
Possibly 4 times this year, man. Put some respect on
I got money on
Jersey's name. No, stop it.
I already tweeted it. Don't worry, it's official.
The fact that Rudy Gobert has been played off the court, being your quote unquote defensive anchor. He's only an interior defensive anchor, right? He cannot guard guys on the perimeter, and he's been exposed many times before that. The Jazz haven't done anything significant to their roster in the last few years, and they flamed out of the playoffs every year.
And they traded Papa Joe.
Papa Joe, man.
And nothing that they have now, I think will overcome that. They are going to finish middle of the pack, and they probably will get out in the first, maybe the second round. Tops. That's as far as I go.
So who do you have at 6? I feel like we spent enough time on Utah.
So this is probably going to make Alykhan mad because I have the Grizzlies at number 6.
Ooh, interesting.
Here's my thing. It's not, the Grizzlies have been really good this season.
I have them higher.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure both of you guys.
Safe has them higher.
Yeah, this was going to be my controversial pick of the night. To give you context, I have the Celtics above them at 5. So the reason why I picked between the two, maybe it's a little bit of recency bias, but they had a game a few nights ago, the Celtics and Grizzlies in Boston, and Boston won by 13 points. And both teams were healthy. So in my eyes, I think the Grizzlies are a year away. This year was a really good step in the direction. They're this close to putting it together. I just think that this year is not it. They are young. They're exciting. They're really good. But I think that they're missing, a veteran piece and some playoff experience before I can have them in my top 5 with all of these other teams.
What is it called when somebody makes a really bad take and you go back in the past and find it?
Oh, Skip Bayless.
We have Mr. Asad Bayless right here. When the Grizzlies,
I could also go for Asad Kellerman.
I was thrown around in the group chat.
I will say this about what Asad's saying right now, and you have to promise me, okay, this is also you do this for me. When Asad is wrong about my Grizzlies this year, and they make it not only to the second round, but potentially the third round, if they make it to the conference finals, we're posting that clip and we're gonna clown Asad all over social media.
Sure.
Episode 88. I got you.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah. You have this is why we do this.
Yeah. Remember you asked me a question last year.
Oh, I got.
And we posted that clip.
I got clowned, man. Ooh. I forgot. How long did I say that we were gonna stay together? Like 6 years? Did I say?
Yeah.
2024 to 25.
Yeah. Clearly, I don't know my guys well enough. Man.
But Socrates, I be knowing shit. I predicted when and how. I said Kyrie would fuck it up.
Yeah. Well,
that was the most impressive part.
I'm gonna put you on the spot right here. Will James Harden sign an extension this offseason with the Sixers?
No.
Interesting. Okay. All right. But back to the Grizzlies. I'm going to counter you for a second.
We can go back to the Grizzlies later. Who do you have at number 6?
Okay. All right. Bet. Fine. That's good.
Because we both have them higher up. Safe has them higher up.
I have the Nuggets, and I know we've talked about them, but for me, the Nuggets feel right at number 6 because it's the way they've been.
Okay.
How about you?
Not bad. I like it. I had them lower quite a bit, but I like the team. I just feel like if I'm projecting based on who they have coming back, I'm going to look stupid later. Because we've seen Clay come back, and it's not the same. But we've also seen people come back and they go great, so you just never know. I think that 7-8 spot is a sweet spot for him right now. But let's say Michael Porter Jr. comes back, Jamal Murray comes back, and they look 70-80% of what they are, then yeah, they'd belong in that top 6.
So, Case, I'm just going to make one last point about my tie that I had between 7, 6, and 5. If you notice something, they each have an MVP caliber player who's carrying their team. Yeah. Giannis has been playing excellent, can't stop him. Joel's been playing excellent, can't stop him. Jokic is just out of his mind, probably the best player in the world right now, the way he's playing. So, when you look at those 3 teams, they have that going for them, and they're all wild card because if you stop one, or if you stop that one player, can their team respond? How will they respond? And that's the name of the game.
And that's why I kind of had them lower.
Okay.
Because with the Nuggets, it is seriously just that one player.
I think that
with the other teams, there's surrounding pieces. With the Nuggets, it is genuinely just Jokic.
Well, I would argue and say, though, that compared to the other 2 players, that Jokic is infinitely a better passer. So even when he gets doubled, he knows ahead of time what's going on. And defensively, the Nuggets are just such a good, scrappy young team that they can play hard and get it done. And Jokic has been playing. If we compare Jokic now to where he was 3 to 4 years ago defensively, you could argue Jokic has been one of the best defensive players in the league this year.
Yeah, but I'm not arguing that. I'm saying if you figure out a way to stop Jokic.
Him. Okay. Yeah, I got you.
The other guys around him are not as good as the guys surrounding Giannis, the Harden and company around Embiid. That's what I'm getting at.
I got you. Okay.
And then at number 5, I'm assuming you had Philly.
Yes. No, wait, no. Number 7, I had the Bucks. Sixers were at number 6. And number 5, I had the Nuggets. Sorry. I
All right, that's fine. We talked about both of them.
Yeah.
At my 5, I had the Bucks. Asad, you had?
The Boston Celtics at 5.
Okay, you have them at 5. I have them at 4.
I have them at 4 as well.
Okay. I have the Bucks at 4. Yeah. So I thought about this between the Bucks and the Celtics. I'm as good as their defenses has been, number 1 in the league for the past month now over the last
since January 1st.
January 1st.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 months, closer to 2 months now. That's been really impressive, honestly, and surprisingly to all of us, because I mean, at the beginning of the season, we were talking about how that Celtics can maybe blow it up and, trade Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. Mostly Jaylen Brown.
It was more Marcus Smart than anybody.
You think what, of him coming back, or talking about it as a trade piece?
As a trade piece.
Yeah, I mean, he was dangled out there, right? And there were a few offers for him. I know Minnesota was interested, Atlanta was interested, but
Dallas.
But obviously the Celtics love him, and clearly he's been a big part of their defense for the longest time. He's been their best perimeter defender since he's been there.
It's the reason he has a contract.
Fair enough. What's he on, a 472?
483, I think.
Okay. So
it was 482.6 or 7.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, but he deserves that contract. They love him, and he's been great for them, both as a perimeter defender, as a ball handler. The shooting's been a little bit inconsistent, but he's made big shots. So, but all in all, to say, between the Bucks at 4 for me and the Celtics at 5, I think the Bucks' experience and the cohesiveness of those big three is what gives them that edge. I have yet to see what, we talk about this almost all the time when we talk about the Celtics. We talk about the isolation play of both Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum is playing out of his mind right now, right? He's having a phenomenal streak.
He's averaging 42 points a game the last 5 games.
Yeah, he's going crazy. And a lot of them are really, he's been making his tough shots. He's been taking tough step backs and tough shots his entire career. But when he's missing them, and when Jaylen Brown is missing them, is when they struggle. So I've yet to see a full system with the Celtics where they don't rely as heavily on the iso ball. And until they do that, I don't know if they can fully succeed and go all the way.
So just a few things on the Celtics, which is why I have them so high. Number one, not only because of the defense, but because when they have their full starting lineup. So let's go through that. What is their full starting lineup, guys?
So
it's Marcus Smart,
Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Robert Williams, and Al Horford.
Guess what their record is when all 5 guys are playing in the last 12 games?
11-1.
12-0. They haven't lost. They haven't lost a game in the last 12 games where all 5 have played and started together. They're just playing exceptional basketball right now. They have an easier remaining schedule than two of the seeds in front of them.
I actually have that pulled up,
and
I have Tankathon open right now.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, they could potentially make a move to that 3rd spot, not have to play a play-in team like Brooklyn, and be able to get to the 2nd round easy enough. And I think they can make some noise and get to a conference finals. Just because, I know you talked about the isolation ball, but Jason Tatum has had 6 50-point games, not even in a full calendar year. And the way he's just playing and the way Jaylen Brown is playing, I think the Danny White trade was
Derek White.
Sorry, Danny White. So Danny Green. The Derek White trade was so significant because it allows them to have another ball handler on the floor. So let's say Marcus is not playing well. If you want Marcus out there as well, you have 4 guys you could bring in to be great ball handlers with that team. And then, oh, by the way, you have Robert Williams to anchor that, and Al Horford to do an excellent job and, kind of lock down whichever big wing or big that you have out there on the floor. So that team, to me, is very well constructed. Ime Udoka, I've always been a big fan of his. I think he's a terrific coach. I'm glad he's getting a chance. And they're just playing with such great synergy right now. So for me, I think number 4 is a great place.
That's partly why I have them there. And I think you can see Tatum's hunger right now. They've been looking for that Eastern Conference Finals comeback for a long time. And I think he's going for it. But we all have our number 4s out, right?
Yeah.
We have the Celtics. He has the Bucks. This is where I dropped the bomb. Safe has the Warriors at number 4.
At 4?
Yes, sir.
I wonder if he's doing that because of the Draymond. I think he's assuming Draymond comes back and they're going to be back at that top.
Even then, I think it's a very bold prediction.
I would not, because the way they were playing before Draymond's injury, it allows Steph to be Steph. Steph was playing at MVP level in large part because Draymond was helping him do so.
How does that argument make sense though? Like, how can you be an MVP level of a player, but you have someone like Draymond who's hitting you in your shooting pocket, making those right reads all the time.
You ever heard of off the stat sheet players?
PJ Tucker, for example, MVP off the stat sheet player. One time, just a funny story. Okay, it's about off the stat sheet. It was a few years ago. We were post game talking to Chris Paul, and I asked him about PJ Tucker, and he's like, on Bleacher Report. I was asking Chris Paul about PJ Tucker. It's like on Bleacher Report, people have the app, and they get all these notifications. He's like, do you ever get a notification about PJ Tucker? And I'm like, probably not. I don't have it, but probably not. I'm assuming
it's not about shoes. You don't have it.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's not about, yeah. And he was like, he's not the one scoring, doing all these things. But when you watch the game and not the box score, who's the most impactful player on the court. And Chris Paul had said that to me multiple times off the record as well, where just like how important a guy like PJ is.
It's a subtle flex right there.
And so
just a subtle flex.
You once you spend a lot of time with Alykhan Bijani, Rockets Insider, you just get kind of numb to them. Yeah. You'll just drop these things mid conversation. We'll be out to dinner, like eating some pizza, and he'll bring up some story about.
Chris Paul recommended this place to me.
Yeah, like James Harden had done this, or
So look,
I was having
an even more recent example of this.
Something,
All right, let's just change this. A recent example of this. Remember, Draymond made the starters for the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Do you remember how Twitter clowned him? But everyone who watched basketball knew that, the stat sheet says, he's 7 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. Draymond is 99% of the Warriors wins.
Yeah.
And it's because he does shit that doesn't show up.
Yeah. So that's why. So that was my initial point with this is with the Steph and being in the MVP conversation. How can you have somebody be potential MVP candidate where without another player like Draymond Green, you are in the slump and you play kind of trash like he has for
chemistry
for parts of the season?
It's chemistry. With PJ Tucker, it was never a chemistry thing. PJ Tucker was all about effort. It's like Ron Artest. Ron Artest, never big in the stat sheet, but you knew he changed the game. So with Draymond, it's not about, he's making Steph better. It's about he's making everything around him so much easier. You don't have to worry about it. Right now, Steph's thinking, oh, fuck, I got to score. Damn, I got to shoot this. And if I don't make it, I got to get back on defense. Draymond's not out there being the general. And I think that's where it comes to, like, why he's an MVP with Draymond on the floor versus why he's been struggling a little bit without him.
I think that's a wonderful point.
Yeah, I'm not by no means.
I know basketball sometimes.
I'm not downplaying Draymond's importance. My what I'm trying to process here is the comparison of, like, if you're going to compare MVP candidates, you're putting Steph on that level with a Jokic, a Giannis, and an Embiid, and I just don't think that matches up. At least, and I think that this season has proven that. At least in my eyes,
it's just output and the elevated status of Steph Curry. That's why he's in there. But I genuinely do not believe he should even be considered an MVP this year.
I agree.
The only person outside that top three we have right now of Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis, I think you have to put in Tatum and maybe DeMar DeRozan a little bit. Ja Morant is not MVP. Don't tell me to keep going.
I thought he was going to say Luka. I feel like even Luka has a shot to make.
I think yes, he does. Post Kristaps trade.
Ja Morant, bro. You're sleeping.
Look, I love Ja Morant. Right. And at number 3, who do you have, Alykhan?
It's my time. I have the Memphis Grizzlies.
Okay.
All right. So it's a 3v1 here.
As long as
I have the Grizzlies at 3.
Okay. As long as the Grizzlies
Dave has the Grizzlies at 3.
Yeah. Okay. So as long as the Grizzlies didn't crack the top 3 for Alykhan, then we're fine. Because then it would have been a little okay. All right, this is fine. I understand that all of you having the Grizzlies at 3, and I get where you guys are.
Okay, so who do you have at 3 first before we talk?
I have the Sixers at 3.
Of course you do.
You guys call me a James Harden lover? Look at this guy.
I don't think you understand the ridicule he faces on a weekly basis, not a daily basis in the fucking group chat.
Yeah, no, I get it all the time. He knows. I
Look,
tell him about
They call him Lames Harden, bro.
it.
That's a good one. I'm gonna put that in the group chat. We're gonna use that. We're not gonna talk about the Sixers in the top three because, frankly, I don't think they're supposed to be there at all. I'm gonna let Alykhan take the floor since apparently the Grizzlies are his team now.
No, it's not now, man.
They've been his
Like
Grizzlies
this
been my
year.
team. No.
No.
Grizzlies been my team since I was like 2008, since I was a kid.
Okay.
Tony Allen, Zach Randolph, all through Marcus
So-
all
All right,
through.
look, I love that
love-
team right there. Grit and grind, that was my shit.
I love grit and grind, and for me, if I was a coaching NBA offense, I love the high-low passing. It was between Mark and Zebo, and that's how I fell in love with basketball. Just like establish position and kind of go from there in methodical half-court offense. But anyways, in terms of this Grizzlies,
Quick joke before we analyze.
yeah.
You guys know why Zebo was so good at basketball?
Why?
Because he was in the shape of a basketball. Okay, I'm done.
I'm not gonna lie.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Zebo. I love you.
It's my guy, man. So when it comes to the Grizzlies, you have Ja. I'm naming players who can legitimately help you win a chip. Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson, Steven Adams in situations,
Aquaman.
Zaire Williams, who's been excellent for them, Jonathan Conchar, who's rebounding at his size, has been a very big help, Kyle Anderson. That's a great 9-man rotation, and I'm missing some of their other great players as well.
The fact
And-
that you put slow-mo in there kind of hurts my head.
Well, I mentioned Zaire Williams.
I will
No, Zaire Williams has been fantastic. Let's not go there.
I will tell you what Kyle Anderson does is that he allows them to play smaller and still give the Grizzlies another ball handler so they can play Bane and another shooter together. They are doing an excellent job of maximizing their team strengths and giving Jaren Jackson the keys to be a good defender. He's taken that next step. I know people don't want to give him credit. It's probably because of a small market, but Jaren Jackson deserves to be. I'm not saying he's going to be DPOY, but he deserves to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. And if not like top 3, at least top 5 consideration. He's been that good for them. You have John Moran, who's playing excellent basketball. And then you have Brandon Clark, who I think is the secret intangible of them all. When you are in the fourth quarter and they're playing their offense, you're usually going to have John Morant, Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, maybe when he comes back. But right now, John Morant, Desmond Bane, Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson, and somebody else who's a wild card who's playing well that night. Why Brandon Clark is important is although he's not going to shoot threes and Jaren Jackson will space out, Brandon Clark is actually better than Jaren Jackson when it comes to catching on the pick and roll, finishing or passing. I'm not saying finishing only, but finishing and passing is important. And when teams are now starting to double job, that's opened so many options for other guys on the floor. And there's just not an easy way to beat them. I heard this comparison once on TNT and I actually liked it. They remind me of the foundational pieces of the San Antonio Spurs. Not saying they're as good as San Antonio, but the way they play, the system that it's in place, they remind me a lot of the San Antonio Spurs.
So going back to Jaren Jackson, I just looked it up. The Vegas odds have him in 4th place.
Okay.
On the Defensive Player of the Year list. Behind Bam, Giannis, and Gobert, who's the favorite right now.
Surprised Mikal Bridges is not up there. Mikal deserves.
Yeah,
He's in 6th.
No,
who's 5th then?
Draymond.
Yeah, Mikal's been really good. Mikal's been really, really good this year. That's tough.
Yeah, but now that I'm off my soapbox, that's all to say. Love the Grizzlies, my favorite team. Hype, and I'm excited to get to watch this core for a very long time.
I'm with you on that. That's why I have them at 3, and that's why Safe has them at 3. They're fun to watch, and they play amazing basketball.
Yeah.
Let's see if it results in playoff success. That's my question. If I'm more than happy for them to prove me wrong because they're amazing to watch.
Big
doubt.
Big game job. I'm telling you guys, don't doubt my guy. Big game job.
His 3-point shooting is what surprised me this year. I did not the jump that he's taken.
That was a great step up for him. He's also Ja's 4th in MVP odds right now.
I mean, the Grizzlies are the number 2
Hey,
seed.
when you play drop on him, he's now developing a floater.
The floater, yeah, the floater has been really good for him too.
So, number
Let's just
2
say
and
this.
1.
I assume the 1 and 2 for all of us. I mean, they're obviously the same teams, but I think I'm optimistic to say that they're going to be in the same order. Actually, I don't know. Alykhan might switch them. I don't know.
All right, who do you think it is?
All right, for me, I have the Miami Heat at 2 and Phoenix at 1.
Case.
Are we in agreement here? Me and Safe have that order.
All right, Alykhan.
I have the Houston Rockets at 1. And I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I have the same order as well. I have Miami at 2 and Phoenix at 1.
All right, then why don't we hit on Miami? Then we'll talk Phoenix.
Miami. I wasn't on the episode when you guys did kind of award predictions, but I mean, Alykhan and I talk about this all the time. When we both think that Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in this league. The Miami Heat being the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, not having their 3 best players play together for a majority of the season is incredible stuff. When you have guys like, I mean, Tyler Hero is the runaway favorite for 6th man of the year. He's been playing great basketball, but then you guys
he's minus 2,500.
Yeah, I mean, he's almost a lock at this point, right? But then you have guys like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus coming off the bench, Duncan Robinson,
Omar Yurtseven, bro.
Yeah, holding it
I
down
was
while
at that fucking Hawks game.
He carried my fantasy team for a few weeks.
Yeah,
so
when Bam was out with his thumb injury.
Oh, sorry, the odds have changed. Tyler Hero is minus 10,000.
Holy shit! Okay, so
if you bet $100, you would win a penny.
Yeah,
a penny.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, and with all of those guys combined, and then
wait, isn't that easy? Wait, hold up. Logic wise, if I had money, why wouldn't I just bet on Tyler Hero and make some money?
I mean, you would have to bet a very significant amount of money to get.
So look, $100 wins you $1. My math was off. So if you want to make any kind of living, let's say you add 2 zeros to make it 10,000, you'd make $100. 100,000, you'd make $1,000. $1 million, you'd make $10,000.
So in the scale of things, it's not going to really be that lucrative.
Okay, sorry. Dumb question, Alykhan. Okay.
It's okay.
No, it's okay.
Alykhan's
Vegas
innocent.
is confusing, man. Don't worry about it.
I don't do sports gambling. So
yeah, Alykhan's very innocent. He's not. There's no alleged.
We don't either.
Behavior.
We just look at the odds. To put it into perspective, like let's say right now, if you want JB Bickerstaff for Coach of the Year, $100 on him would win you $350.
Okay. What are the odds on Spoelstra right now?
Spoelstra is all right. If this page would let me do it.
Spoelstra's the best coach in this league. I agree, and I think he's been the best.
He
coach.
is, but I don't think he'd win. That's the issue, right?
Yeah, he's never won. That's the problem. He should have won at least once, and he's never won before.
And I can't scroll on this page anymore. Really?
Yeah. I will say Eric Spoelstra has been the best coach in the NBA since 2014.
Since LeBron left, I would agree.
Oh, even while LeBron was
Eric
there,
Spoelstra, $100 would win you $700.
Dude, I low key, if I was a betting man, I would bet money on that.
I mean, I don't see why not. When Kyle Lowry, who's been, he's been out dealing with personal reasons, and I'm assuming it's a death in the family and probably someone close to him. Miami's been very, very secretive about that and hasn't really released many details out of respect to Kyle and his family, which is completely 100% understandable. But I mean, just speculating that's probably what it is, right? Jimmy Butler's been in and out of the lineup with illnesses, small injuries here and there.
Can we figure out what's wrong with him? Because it's random at this point.
There's always something. It was like a toe.
Too much coffee, bro.
Too much big face coffee.
Yeah.
But look, I agree with you. I think Miami's been amazing this year. And their only knock is going to be in the playoffs. Because at this point, I think they'll make it out of the first round easy. Because what's their matchup looking like in the first round?
I mean, it could be Brooklyn. It could be Brooklyn. So
I forget that Brooklyn's all the way down there.
Yeah. I mean, the way it's looking right now, Toronto has been kind of average the last month and a half.
So they'd either play Toronto or the Hawks right now.
Yeah, the Hawks are 2 games. The Hawks are 2 games.
I think
back.
Toronto's gonna be the 8th seed.
Because look, right now the 7 and 8 play-in is Raptors Nets.
Yeah,
and I think Raptors would lose that, but I think they would beat the Hawks or the Hornets.
I agree with that. So
it depends
I think
on what
Miami rocks
Hawks
Toronto. So the Hawks currently easiest remaining strength of schedule.
Yeah, I mean, we should have beat the Pistons, and look what happened. So
I'm
Hey
not
man,
talking
Cade
about the
Cunningham
past.
is the most clutch player in the NBA, man. Besides Jalen Green.
But yeah, I don't think there's a lot there's not a lot to talk about with Miami. They're hard nosed, they're in shape, and they can score in a multitude of ways. They have, I think, 9 guys that play consistent minutes, and they all have experience in the playoffs.
yeah, then the chemistry is
Lowry,
there for that team. They've all played
Lowry,
together.
seasoned vet. Jimmy Butler, dog. Bam has experience in the playoffs. He played in the finals. Harrow and Robinson have played in the finals, and Harrow's been fantastic this year. And even coming off the bench, you have guys like Gabe Vincent, who's been fantastic for him. He's a rookie, but he's got guys around him. Max Strus, same thing. PJ Tucker. We didn't mention PJ Tucker yet.
Yeah,
He's on the Heat. Victor Oladipo's coming back. No one knows what he's gonna do. He might get hurt again, but who fucking knows?
Wasn't he supposed to make his debut?
He
He
played
played
well.
2 days ago.
He looked
Yeah.
good. He looked good against Houston.
Yeah.
How many minutes did he play?
15.
Okay.
15. So like they're a true contender this year.
They had a stretch, I think it was last week, where they went 3-1 against other contenders in the East.
Mhm.
And to me, I mean, I just don't see another team beating them. Maybe Milwaukee, but as of right now, the way they're playing, I just don't see that. Once they're back at full strength, especially. And
I see
coaching
2 teams
advantage.
giving them trouble.
Milwaukee
If
and
the Nets continue to gel, and Milwaukee.
okay.
No.
Well, now we get to number 1 and consensus number 1, the Phoenix Suns.
No
Who
doubt.
do have this year's coach of the year coaching them. Monty Williams.
Monty will win the award. I still think it should be.
He will win the award simply because he did not win it last year.
Well, we can make the same argument for Spoelstra, who's never won it before.
But see, the thing is, everyone thought he should have won it last year. With Spoelstra, no one's ever gone out and campaigned for him. We've all known he's an amazing coach, but no one's really gone to bat for him.
Yeah, I agree. Well, look,
And I think in our awards predictions, Usa had JB Bickerstaff.
No, that was Shaban. I had Spoelstra. For
Okay. I know one of y'all did. I wasn't sure. You weren't here, so it's hard.
It was Shaban. Shaban had JB.
Look on the Phoenix front though, they just play smart basketball. Whenever you rotate over, the ball's already at somewhere else on offense. Defensively, you just can't get past the perimeter players. And Devin Booker has now become I'm not going to call him an elite defender. He's not just an average defender. He is a good defender.
Above average
And
for sure.
and when you have at least five good defenders, and everybody else on that starting lineup is elite. But when you have 5 good defenders on the floor like that, I mean, it's really hard to score. They can not only crowd the paint and wall off the paint, but then they can still rotate back out and contest shots at the perimeter.
So remember how you said Philly plays good fundamental defense?
Yeah.
Phoenix plays amazing fundamental basketball.
Yes.
On both sides of the court.
Yes.
Partially due to having Monty Williams there, but a large part of that is having Chris Paul on the team. Chris Paul might be the most cerebral player on an NBA court. And I hate saying that.
And that's coming from a Chris Paul hater.
You know, I used to say this to the Rockets media. I was like, if Chris Paul wasn't playing basketball, I could see him as like a Fortune 500 CEO because he's that
100%.
smart. And you know, I say this, and he has so many side businesses and ventures that he's a part of. Like, he legitimately is probably not just cerebral on the court. He's probably one of the most cerebral players off the court, which is why he was president of the Players Association.
I think we say on the court because that's where we see him the most, but I'm pretty sure he will carry that into the real world.
Yeah.
Whenever
like
he's playing.
He's been with State Farm since the Clippers days?
Yeah.
2012.
And it's been a while.
Yeah.
And he's not letting go of that check, which is smart.
You know, he does public health work where he's at the forefront, where he'll buy properties and they'll do like revolutionary type of public health work in those properties to help people have places to stay. Like, he does not just a lot of like entrepreneurship work, but social entrepreneurship work. And I don't know, I just think above and beyond a lot of things he does, he's just so smart. But
let's save this conversation for
but back
off
to
the court
but
episode.
but back
But
to
basketball wise, no one knows the rule book like Chris Paul.
Yeah.
No one knows how to manipulate the floor like Chris Paul does. And absolutely no one in the NBA has a better mid-range jumper than Chris Paul.
Yeah, I mean,
this is with watching DeMar DeRozan, with being a huge Kobe Bryant stan. I don't think I've seen Chris Paul miss a mid-range shot.
He can get that shot on the right
whenever
he wants at will, and he just knows how to contort a defense and how to position, himself, how to get the screen and how to manipulate it to get that shot, which is one of the crazy things. The best thing about Phoenix, and what this happened that I noticed is from their game against the Bucks from earlier this week or maybe last week, when both Devin Booker and Chris Paul were not playing. Naturally, I thought, maybe you guys did too, that I thought it was going to be a blowout. Without Chris Paul and without Devin Booker, that they had no chance. But now you have Cam Payne, who comes in, steps into the starting lineup. Cameron Johnson, who's going insane. Obviously Bridges and Ayton have had really good games, but the fact that they were able to stay with Milwaukee, and Milwaukee was at full strength. They had their entire core starting five, and the big three were playing. They stayed toe to toe with them all the way until the end of close to the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
where you're missing your clutch players, which is understandable. But the fact that you were able to stay toe to toe with the champion, the team that you played in the finals without your two best players, is phenomenal, and it's very scary for what's probably going to come in the playoffs.
Which is why they're at number one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because to be down both those guys and to still compete with everybody and beat everybody pretty much. They're what, 49-12?
They're 53-13, and they are the first team to clinch a playoff spot this season.
Yeah, they clinched last night after beating the Heat.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Phoenix has been dominant from early on in the season. They have not let go. Even without Chris Paul for the next 4 weeks, does not look like they will let it go, because they've got it down. They've got the system
What's
down.
weird right now is there's no Chris Paul update. I've been looking, and I know it said 4 to 6 weeks, but usually with any injury, especially to a player in the spotlight like Chris Paul, there's constant updates.
I don't think there needs to be an update. They're going to lock up the number one seed. Their chemistry is already set.
What kind of updates would you want, Case? Like in terms of just kind of like where he is in his rehab?
Like that, if he had surgery, if it went well. Because a lot of times that thumb fracture,
he did have surgery.
Is usually a Jones fracture.
Okay.
And then with the Jones fracture, they usually put a pin in. So you'll have the surgery to put the pin in, and they'll wait a couple days or a week or so. Then they'll take the pin out. And a week or so after that, you can start using regular movement again. And I just thought we'd see something.
Theoretically, honestly, I mean, tell me if you guys disagree, but if it was the playoffs right now, do you really think Chris Paul would be
I think he'd play.
Yeah, and so I think that's the reason that there's 4 weeks of the season. He might as well.
How far ahead are they in the conference standings?
They're
3 games.
They're 8.5 ahead of Memphis right now. So with 16 to 17 games left of the season. So, they would have to lose a very significant amount.
I'm not saying that there no update is a bad thing. Usually we just see something.
I will share with you guys, Chris Paul doesn't like to warm up like on the court. He usually does his warm-ups and sessions like in the practice gym. So like at Toyota
I've heard this. No one's ever confirmed this to me.
Yeah. So like at Toyota Center, like they have the practice court inside the arena as well. So some players will go in the practice court, some will go on the court. And Chris Paul was always a guy who liked to go in the practice court usually. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's already doing work, but they're just probably not announcing it. Case like you said, like it's that long of a timeline, so it would make sense probably.
Again, I have no issue with him being out because his game is mostly mental. But we saw last year with the shoulder injury, sometimes it's significant, and that injury is on his dominant hand.
Yeah.
And the thumb is actually very important when you shoot. So who knows? Maybe he's getting work in, but I don't think it'll be a problem later on. But I think that does conclude our power rankings.
Yeah.
I mean, we have all this talk to save for our playoff push. And we did our power rankings today. Phoenix and Miami are the teams to beat this year. That's what it looks like. We had a consensus 1 and 2. But next week, we're going to do our March Madness update. We're going to highlight some prospects. We're going to pick our winners. And we'll have a special guest for that as well. But that's it for this week. We'll see you next week. See ya.
Bye.